Well, it's a very good morning from him, and of course, it's a very good morning from me. Welcome to the hottest day of the year, apparently. In fact, we went out there just before the live stream started, and it's really sort of dark and overcast, but really hot. Reminds me when I used to go to the Indian subcontinent on business, when I used to go to Bangladesh and places where it's really hot, but just rainy and just monsoony. So we'll wait and see what happens to the weather. Hope you're good. Hope life is treating you well. You may be on holiday now, you may be working. I don't matter where you are. You might actually just be catching up on all sorts of other things during the August quiet period. I've got a couple of things for you today. I want to take a look at Welcome to the Pleasure Dough, which comes up later. So Frankie Goes to Hollywood number, of course, but we've got a little sales idea to help you with that one. But I also just want to pick up on a couple of loose ends, really, on the leasehold reform, which we're going to do straight away for you. But lots going on, of course, in the mortgage market. I'm going to do a bit of a live stream next week on the plans to build 1.5 million houses, which is affecting everything and everybody. And there's 3 or 4 issues that will crop up for mortgage advisors as a result of this, and you need to be prepared for that. It's all about being ahead of the curve, isn't it? Which is the key to the whole thing. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on to our first topic then, which is the Leasehold and Reform Act. So let's head over to the whiteboard for this one, because I want to share with you some thoughts I've got. This is called Leasehold Reform Act 2023. Now, the problem, of course, is we've just had a new parliament come in, a new government, but this is actually the law now. So let me just prove that to you by showing you a slide. This slide is from the government's website. Leasehold reforms become law. The Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act has become law today, and that was on the 24th of May 2024. So, in other words, it's published under the Sunak Conservative government. Now, if the Labour government want to repeal it, fine. I don't think they will. So it is actually law now, and it actually got royal assent. So let's put that up there. So you might often find it being given a different date to it. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You don't get tested on dates in the exam, do you? But you might find it called the Leasehold and Reform Act of 2024. But it's the law. So how's it changed things? Well, it's changed things quite a bit, really. I've got 10 changes for you, which I want to highlight and talk about. Number one, here's my picture, by the way, of my flat. Do you like it there? With the shops down below and the apartment blocks. Number one is that the owners of the leasehold properties can now buy the freehold. They've always been able to do that, of course they have, but they can actually buy the freehold. Now, what do I mean by buying the freehold? A lot of people get confused about this, because in England and Wales, Scotland's very different, of course, better, I think, actually, you have what's called the freeholder. Now, the freeholder is a person or people or a company, doesn't matter. But over here, I'll put our freeholder over here, shall we? So let's put our freeholder, who's a very important person. Let's put a little tie on them, because they're very important. Gone are the days when people wear ties. But anyway, let's put a tie on him as well. So there's our freeholder. Do you like my little picture there with the important tie? Actually, people don't wear ties anymore. I haven't worn a tie for about 3 years. But anyway, so this freeholder owns the land forever. That's the whole point. Now, the freeholder owns the land and the sky and all that kind of stuff. People who live in the flats only own that unit for a period of time. That's the whole point behind leasehold. But the first change, if you like, is that the owners of the flat now have the ability to buy the freehold from the freeholder. Now, they can do that if the commercial element is now 50%. It used to be 25%. Now, when we say commercial element, we're talking here about these usually shops down below, aren't they? There's your dry cleaners and your bargain booze or whatever, or your bookies, or they all change now. It's all online, hasn't it? This represents a very small percentage of the floor space, and it's 50% of the floor space in which they are focusing on. So basically, if the flat's got lots of commercial, you can still buy it, which is good news. Second point for you is that the costs have been lowered. So when they buy the freehold, the costs of purchasing the freehold have come down, which is good. So they've been lowered. Because it used to be that the costs were extortionate, and the freeholder would charge huge amounts of money, and people would be put off by doing it. But they have now the ability to do that at a much lower cost. So that's point number 2 for you. Point number 3, I'll put that up here for you, is that if you own a flat, and here we've got a flat at the top floor, for example, this will have a unexpired lease attached to it. There'll be a term of lease, which every year keeps ticking down, ticking down. They can now extend the lease. There you go. They can now extend the lease by going to the freeholder and demanding that they extend the lease by up to 990 years. So there's plenty of scope there. I think it used to be 90 or something. But and they can do that from day one of ownership now as well. They don't have to be in there for 2 years. So that's a good thing. So not only could they buy the freehold from the freeholder, they could also extend the lease of their property. And that's the point, because if you buy the freehold from the freeholder, it doesn't turn the flats into freehold flats. They still remain leasehold, but you can extend the lease if you want to. But all these things all cost money, and that's the next big change. Number 4, I'll put that for you, is the marriage value has gone now. The marriage value, you might have read about it in the book. It's a silly term, really. But the whole point is that if you extend the term, then of course you're going to have an increase in the value of the property, aren't you? Makes sense. And this marriage value is connected to that increase in value. And it used to be a very complicated calculation that made it really expensive to do it. So in other words, if you were to extend the lease by a few years and the marriage value was involved, it would make it quite extortionate. Now that's gone, which therefore makes it cheaper to extend the lease. You see what they're trying to do? They're trying to give these unit holders in these flats, these leaseholders, more rights and cheaper rights too. And I think that's a good thing all around. That's number 4. Number 5 talks about the property itself. And I'll squeeze this over here for you, number 5. Because what they've done as well is they've banned houses being sold as freehold, as leasehold, I should say. So any house that you purchase from a new build has to be freehold. Most are, of course they are, but there was a few issues a few years ago when they were building houses and then selling them as leases. Bit naughty, really, so they could charge extra money. Now, of course, with the new homes coming in now, 1.5 million new homes being built in the next 5 years, that's a big one. So you won't find any more leasehold houses, which is great. Number 6, squeeze this one down here for you. Number 6 is they've changed the costs involved now in owning a flat. Now, the first cost, of course, is what's known as the ground rent. Now, the ground rent is a small amount of money that's payable every year, typically, to the freeholder. Which is why these building firms love these, because what they would do is build all these houses, sell them as leasehold, create the freeholder, sell the freehold to an investment company who would then cream off the ground rent every year for the next million years. Now, the ground rent used to be quite expensive under some of these situations. It would double as well after 5 years. It just got silly. So what they've done now is they've made sure that all ground rent is what's known as peppercorn. I love these old English phrases, don't you? A peppercorn ground rent means it's cheap as chips. That's another phrase, isn't it? I don't know where that one comes from, because chips aren't cheap anymore. Or they go to the fish and chip shop, cost you 50 quid for a family now. But ground rent is cheap now. It's much, much lower. Peppercorn means it's £1 or £5 a year or something ridiculous like that. So that's cutting out the freeholder's way of making a lot of money, which ain't such a bad thing as well. Now, number 7, again, is the second major cost that a leaseholder will pay to the freeholder, and this is the one with the most contention. It's the service charges. Now, service charges, often called maintenance charge or whatever it is a monthly figure that flat owners have to pay to the freeholder, who then collectively maintains the common parts of the block. It's caused a lot of stink recently with the cladding disaster. It's become very expensive. So if you've got a lot of land and there's trees and you have landscape gardeners in there every couple of weeks to cut the grass, and everything needs painting, and the lift needs fixing, it's all the external areas, and the service charges goes towards that. Now, what they're doing is they're making the charges in which the freeholder makes much more clear, much more clear disclosure clarity. So in other words, if the freeholder wants to use their brother-in-law to do the decorating, they've got to disclose that, because that's a backhander kind of thing. Makes it easier for all the flat owners to know where their money is going. The one I love as well, number 8, I'll squeeze that one over here for you. Let's put this here for you, is they've eliminated the fact that the freeholder would often get commission. Now, part of the service charges is to pay for buildings insurance. You know about that, don't you? Buildings is the fabric of the property. And it's what's called a block insurance. So the whole block is insured for fire and earthquake, that sort of thing. And the cost of that, of course, goes from service charges. And the freeholder arranges it through their friendly broker, who pays them a nice little commission. So again, it's stopping that as well, which is you beggars believe actually what goes on sometimes, isn't it, with these things? The last one, or second to last one over here, and I'll put it here for you. We want more control, shouts this leaseholder in the property here. So let's just put a little speech bubble there so you can see what's going on there. Is number 9. They're giving the leaseholders more control over the whole thing, really. More control about who does the decorating, the service charges, who organises it. More control, more committees, that sort of thing. So that the freeholders' influence is getting lower and lower, and that's the thing. And the last point for you, if you're interested, is this really only affects England and Wales. Let's put a little flag up there. Sorry, here's the England flag for you. There we go. There you go. That's point number 10 for you. Because leaseholds properties are predominantly English and Welsh law. In Scotland, you get hardly any leasehold properties. All flats in Scotland are owned as absolute tenure, which is a really good system. And across the world, you don't have leasehold, because they're all a bit more modern than we are. So the whole point about lease is very old-fashioned, and I love this act. I think this is really going to help people who buy flats, who really don't know what they're getting into. Young first-time buyers, they don't really understand. Your job as a mortgage advisor is to explain these things, not the rights that they have, but if they're wondering about buying a flat and the fact it's got a lease, etc., you just need to explain things about the freehold and the control and that sort of thing. Obviously, the lender's going to be particularly interested in the lease agreement. Of course, their lawyer, their conveyancer will look into that as part of the lender's legal work. But they're of course, worried about the lease. The unexpired term of the lease is where lenders come into it. So, Royal Assent 2024. A nice update for you. Bye. There you go. Hope you enjoyed that one. There was a nice little update there for you on leasehold and freehold reform. Okay, so again, lots of things coming up. We've got my podcast starting tonight at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's 4 parts: how to be a successful financial advisor. So for those of you in the mortgage trade that maybe want to segue more into the protection side and maybe look at other needs of clients, protection, pensions and savings, investments, that sort of thing, then being a financial advisor is the way to guarantee your future, really, because the mortgage market will always be up and down. It's been down the last couple of years, but it's going back up again now in the autumn next year. But it'll come back down again. Whereas financial advisor business level is very, very much the same. That's coming up tonight. If you want to get onto that, get onto our database. But I'll share you the link later. So last tip to share with you then is all about sales, really. As you know, I give you a little sales tip at the end of my live stream, just a few updates for you on things. If you're running a business, you might have people there working for you. You might be working on your own. So a lot of these tips help you. This one's called Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Do you like that phrase, dear? Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Now, the whole point about this one, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Now, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome was a British studio album by the band Frankie Goes to Hollywood. It was released in 29th October 1984. And Welcome to the Pleasure Dome was the title. Now, salespeople need a dose of pleasure to perform well in their roles. We know that. Now, the one that's most linked to coaching is a goal. Now, I mean achieving a goal. Achieving a goal is satisfying and gives most people, particularly salespeople, a dose of pleasure. So my moral here is to ensure that you coach your salespeople and use a model such as Grow. Grow, for example, is all about goal setting and goal achievement at the heart of the process. Now, if reaching a goal doesn't give your salespeople pleasure, then arguably they shouldn't be in the sales role. But you could debate that one. Instead, they might want to listen to Frankie Goes to Hollywood's album, which was assured of a UK chart entry at #1 by having advanced sales of over 1 million copies. Now, I'm not even too sure if Taylor Swift has achieved that. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. There you go. little sales tip there for you to help you in your business and the role that you carry out. Okay, I mentioned the podcast. I'm going to mention it again because I can. So let's give you details of the podcast if you're watching this live. There you go. 4-series podcast, How to Succeed as a Financial Advisor. Tonight, 12th August, 6 p.m. We've got one on Wednesday, next week and next Wednesday as well. I've got 4 of these. Well, what I'm doing here is it's a podcast live with video as well, but it doesn't really add much, does it? Someone's face. And with a lot of questions around different topics. And tonight we've got a topic around the regulatory side of things, and people can come on board. They can ask me live questions as well, and I'm always happy to answer those questions live. They are being recorded. If you want to get onto the database for this, of course, there's our database link. As you know, you just need to QR code that one, and you get onto our database. And that way, of course, we can keep in touch and all those good things. And we'll advise you of the link, and you'll get recordings and everything. So that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, which is quite exciting. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic few days. Enjoy the rest of your summer if you're on holiday, or enjoy the hot weather, because it is hot today. It's over 30 degrees today. And I'll see you next week. Bye.